All right, welcome back to the International Relations and Cooperation course. In this mini lecture, we're going to talk about some pathways to peace. This is the first part of the mini lecture. So in this slide, you can see an overview of today's talk. So we're going to talk about international balance of power, especially these 2 points, the balance of power and hegemony. And then also in the second part, we're going to talk about different strategies for achieving international peace at the state level of analysis. So looking at our first part, this balance of power, this is when major nations have roughly the same strength at a particular time. If many strong countries have almost the same capabilities, this is called multipolar system. And if two major countries are more powerful than others, then this is called bipolar balancing. The main idea, peace lasts when power is balanced. Hegemony means one country is much stronger than others. So this dominant nation can create and keep peace. So there are a few examples, and we'll just go through each one of these very quickly, but Pax Romana, this was when the Roman Empire's peace in Europe and North Africa during the 1st and 2nd centuries kind of took hold and was maintained. And the next one being Pax Sinica, and this was peace in East Asia, especially led by China from around 200 BC to about 200 AD, or during the Christian era, CE. Pax Britannica, this was Britain in the 1800s, and you can see in the map there, all those pink areas, these are areas that were controlled by Britain, by the British Empire. And the final example would be Pax Americana, and that was in the 1900s, the U.S. established peace, not through equal power, but through their dominant position, especially in Central America. And moving on, the next big topic is strategies for achieving international peace. Again, today we're going to talk mainly about the state level of analysis. Diplomacy is the primary tool in achieving this maintenance of international peace, but it's only one of a broad range of strategies. So we're going to talk about some of these other strategies for it. We'll start with preventive diplomacy. This involves early intervention to prevent disputes from escalating into violent conflicts. So starting a dialogue very early when there's early signs of tension or possible conflict. Again, preventive diplomacy. The next strategy, mediation. This is when a neutral third party facilitates dialogues, gets the two conflicting parties together and try to help them find some solution or some way out of the conflict. The next strategy is peacekeeping, and usually peacekeeping comes under the umbrella of the United Nations, and these peacekeeping missions involve the deployment of international troops to maintain or restore peace in areas of conflicts. So it's usually coming from multiple different countries, and then these peacekeepers monitor and observe the peace processes and can assist in implementing agreements. Now, different from peacekeeping is peace building. So this occurs after the conflict. After the conflict or post-conflict, there's a need for reconstruction and institution building to prevent the backsliding or the resurgence of violence. So peace-building initiatives might include disarmament, reintegration of former combatants, and supporting democratic processes. So we're gonna talk a little bit more about disarmament as another strategy in just a moment. Power balancing. This is when states align with others to counterbalance threatening states. So again, making groups, gathering allies. So this can lead to a balance of power that discourages unilateral aggression, just one side being aggressive. Moving on, another strategy is sanctions and embargoes. So the international community can use sanctions or trade embargoes to pressure states into adhering to international norms and agreements, kind of following up on promises and agreeing not to attack the other side. I mentioned disarmament earlier, so one other strategy is reducing the number of weapons and military forces, and this can decrease the likelihood of conflict. And then conflict resolution training, so educating leaders and communities about conflict resolution strategies, and this can provide them with the tools to address disagreements without resorting to violence. So sometimes it just takes some awareness raising and actual training to help leaders and communities be more aware of the situation and how to avoid conflict. The next strategy, one name is two-track diplomacy. Also, back-channel diplomacy is another term. So this involves non-officials in peace talks, and often paving the way for formal negotiations. So this is somebody who's not directly related, not directly involved in the government, but someone who can talk to the other side and usually on the other side also it's not an official. We do this back channeling, and then that can lead to actual meetings between leaders, and then possible diplomacy and agreements for non-aggression. Economic development, poverty and lack of economic opportunity can be a kind of hotbed for conflict. It can be, that provides a situation or circumstances where it's easy for conflict to occur. So development projects and initiatives can help kind of ease those economic stressors. Moving on, we have international law and treaties. So establishing international norms and codifying them in treaties can provide a framework for peaceful relations. So getting something on paper and something that's agreeable at the international level. But again, this is something that the states can initiate. We're looking at a state level of analysis. And just general promotion of democracy. So some theories suggest that democracies are less likely to wage war against each other. Thus, promoting democratic governance might foster peace. So trying to nurture and support development of democratic systems can be very helpful. Other strategies, so cultural exchanges and diplomacy, promoting understanding and respect between different cultures can pave the way for peaceful relations. So, everything from student exchange programs or artistic collaborations, performances, and sports diplomacy, and other ones as well. Just a couple more. Regional organizations, so bodies like the European Union, ASEAN, African Union, these kind of bodies can play a role in maintaining regional peace through collective decision making and initiatives. So working together with others in the region, other states in the region. And then NGOs, so non-governmental organizations can play a significant role in peace building, also providing humanitarian relief and also post post-conflict reconstruction that we've talked about. Also, acting as neutral parties, they can traverse the political boundaries. Just to wrap up this talk, so the power balancing, just a couple of things. So during the Cold War, the U.S. implemented power balancing in managing its relations with the Soviet Union. Internally, at the state level, this meant fortifying its economy, investing in R&D, education, and enhancing military capacities. And externally, the U.S. formed alliances, provided assistance, promoted cooperation with non-communist states, areas, regions. So some say that this approach maintained the peace between the superpowers, but at the same time, we have to remember those proxy wars. We've talked about this a couple of times, but both the Soviet Union and the U.S. Waging war through proxies or other smaller nations, smaller states. And in today's context, China's rising dominance, power balancing remains relevant. Countries like India bolster their military and political relations to counteract China's influence. Southeast Asian nations like Singapore, Philippines, they also pursue both engagement with China for economic benefits, but also look to the U.S. as a counterbalance to China's power. In 2010, the U.S. reassured its commitment to the region, and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton announced a role in mediating territorial disputes involving China. So China, for its part, emphasizes diplomacy and participation in regional institutions to temper concerns about its rise. And then finally, contrasting power balancing is something called bandwagoning. This is where smaller states align with a more powerful state for protection and also benefits. So during the Cold War, while the U.S. employed power balancing against the Soviet Union, smaller countries bandwagoned with the U.S. for protection. So that's all for this lecture, and looking forward to seeing you back for the next one. Thank you.